Good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is going to be rather interesting. I've already passed up something out. But when Brian called me the other day and he said, how about giving a message on Sunday, sharing something with us? It's like, oh yeah, what am I going to share? I just never know sometimes exactly what it's going to be. I always have a few things in the fire that I just feel inclined to share with people. But I would say probably before he had the phone back in his pocket, I got a title. And that's usually what I go with. So the title I had is Don't Get Soft. Okay, Don't get soft. What does that mean? And I kind of paraphrased it for myself. And one of the things I put up is, how gutsy are you? Okay, how gutsy are you? How gutsy are you? Will you fold when something comes in that kind of challenges you or tempts you? Will you fold? Or will you compromise on something that you've kind of made a promise to yourself and God that goes with the word? Will you compromise? And the other thing is, will you take a stand for righteousness? Will you stand for righteousness? And so what does righteousness look like? Not that we have to read all this now, but I came up with some of the righteousness quotes in the Bible, scripture, that I thought were very telling. And righteousness, as far as the dictionary says, the quality of being morally right or justifiable. Okay? So if you're morally right or justifiable, how are you going to do this? So righteousness means a lot. And if you go through these scriptures, which you can go through at your own time, I'm sure you'll maybe circle one or two that will speak to you a little bit more. Okay? So you'll be able to speak to them a little bit more. So righteousness is very important. Now anyway, we all of us here know right from wrong. Do you like that copy of this? Just kind of talking about righteousness, and it kind of streams through everything we do today. We know right from wrong. We know things that are of God and things are not of God. Things not of God, like pulling the trailers that we've been talking about. Okay? Pulling all the many trailers in our life. That's not of God. The other thing is, we want to be giant killers. Okay, we've talked about the giants, and there's many giants in our life. And we don't want to be overcome with the giants in our life. So we need to know what righteousness is, so we can stand morally strong, so we don't get soft. And we know how gutsy we are. Right? So as a daughter, I kind of have a creed that I live by, and it's, I will not be seen as weak, nor frail, nor lacking. I will not fold. I will not compromise. We have to kind of sometimes state it to ourselves and state it to others. Someone knows me, says, oh yeah, you're strong, go to Karen. Yeah, because I have that mantra that I try to live by. Am I perfect? Heck no. But I can always bring that out. So I choose to take a stand on things. And I'm going to share two little things with you, which you may or may not be aware of, but it might speak something to you in your life. McDonald's. Everyone likes McDonald's, and there's a McDonald's right where I go to, and I like, sometimes they're just iced coffee. So it's just what I get there at McDonald's sometimes. I go get iced coffee. Well, did you know that months ago they decided to celebrate all this gayness and put the color of the rainbow on the back of their French fry containers? You aware of that? You might not be, but they did. Whether it was for a month, a week, whatever, I don't know. I made a stand that I will not go to McDonald's. I will stand firm. I will be strong, because I will not support that. Because if I bend to support something like that, I'm going against what I stand for. I know it's something simple, and I know McDonald's is everywhere, and it makes things a lot easier, but I need to take a stand, and I won't compromise. Another thing with Target. Everyone knows about Target and the bathroom dilemma. Anyone can use any bathroom, doesn't matter what gender you are. Well, I used to like Target. There's a big store. It was good prices. I have not been in Target since. I took a stand. I'm gutsy enough to say, I don't need what you have. God is all I really need, so I will not go to Target. And that's kind of how I live my life. And that's how some of us tend to, we might take a stand for a short time, and then all of a sudden we kind of like, oh, well, I don't see the stripes on the back anymore, so I can start going to McDonald's again. But I say, maybe we'd have to say no to things a little bit more, because if they were there, it's almost like agreeing to it. And you can't agree to it. I mean, there's right and there's wrong. There's God's way or the highway, and the highway goes to where. Anyway, I kind of hold a God standard for myself, and that's sort of where it comes from. And I make a promise to God, and when I make a promise to somebody, it's not going to be broken. I remember things in my entire past where I promised somebody, and I have not broken them ever since. So if I promise somebody something, not to say, not to talk, to do something, to be there at the right time, it's going to be done. It's sort of what I do. I make a promise to myself because I'm a daughter of the Lord. So anyway, what did we see in Jesus' life? Did he compromise? Did he take a stand? Did he face all these evils that we do? He was tempted beyond anything. And did you see him kind of like, it's okay here? He didn't. And so if I don't take a stand, I'm not being like Christ in us, Christ in me. So sometimes we have to kind of step back and look at our lives and saying, well, okay, what am I going to take a stand for or against? All right? So we have to be strong in that. Now, I looked up some Bible verses, and some of the verses I was looking up, which I think are rather interesting, are about overcoming, okay? And if you look up Bible verses about overcoming, and you look up verses about strength, look up verses about obstacles, you're going to come up with quite a sheet of them. And sometimes those are the things that we need to stick to when we see something that we're a little tempted to go toward, but we maybe have to put our foot down. One that I like the best is 17:27 Proverbs. Okay? He who has knowledge restrains and is careful with his words. And a man of understanding and wisdom has a cool spirit, self-control, and an even temper. Okay? That's something I like to live by all the time. And I kind of remember that or draw back to that one. Not that I have an even temper all the time. You don't want to get me on the phone on a bad day when somebody kind of wronged me in the business world. That would probably be one of my weakest points, as my son knows. But sometimes okay, sorry for the way I acted, because I don't see the person and all. That's probably my biggest fault, and I'm going to admit to it. But I do ask God for forgiveness when I realized I've done that. And if that's all I'm taking it out on, but I usually will say, I'm sorry, everyone here has been very nice on the phone and helping me. It's just that I've had a bad day, and So I usually at the end sort of ask for forgiveness. Sometimes not, I feel bad, and sometimes I'll call back and say something, because it does kind of bother me. But there's many things in it. And I like a lot of Corinthians. A lot of the things in Corinthians has to do a lot with these things. And I like 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10, and I'll give you a copy of this that I printed out, because maybe it's something that you might be able to gravitate to. It says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My loving kindness and my mercy are more than enough, and they're always available, regardless of the situation. For my power is being perfected and is completed and shows itself most effectively in your weakness." And I do have weaknesses, and I do admit them. "Therefore I will all the more gladly boast in my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may completely enfold me and may dwell in me. So that I am well pleased with weakness, with insults, with distress, with persecutions, and with difficulties for the sake of Christ. For when I am weak in human strength, then I am strong, truly able, truly powerful, truly drawing from God's strength." All these are good, but some of them might speak to you at different times. So, what else do I have up here? You never know on my magic table. Do you always give God your best? Or do you maybe, instead of the best, you're just a little bit underneath it? Take that shortcut. You compromise just that little bit. Do you always give God your best, your very best? And this is kind of interesting. If not, if you don't give me your best, are you getting soft? Are you compromising? And this is how Holy Spirit works when he gives some of us messages, is I got the title, Don't Get Soft. Brian said, what am I going to talk about? And all of a sudden, I thought, I know, I just saw a video clip on the internet, which is going to fit in perfectly. And what was it? Some of you guys, I hope you have seen it, because I don't know if you have or not. It's called The Death Crawl in Facing the Giants. Are any of you familiar with that? Okay. It's one of the most famous sports scenes in movie history. Facing the Giants is a very well-known movie, and there's a death scene. There's a scene in there called the death crawl. What it is the coach is up there, and all the players are out there. Are we going to beat this team on Friday? And one of the star players said, well, maybe. Maybe? You're my star player. You should be safe. So he put him to the test. He said, you, up here now. And you, Jeremy, come up over here now. And he says, all right, let's see. Do you know what the death crawl even is? Okay, a death crawl, and I am not going to demonstrate, is when the football player gets down with his hands on the ground and his feet on the ground. The rest of his body's up in the air. Okay? And then he has to carry weight on his back. Jeremy was another football player. Jeremy has to lay on his back. All right? This guy's up like this. He has to lay on his back, holding onto his shoulder pads, while this guy is crawling with 160 or 70 pounds on his back. Jeremy was not a light person. He might have been more than that, but he was at least 160 to 80. So you have to crawl. And that's why it's actually called this death crawl. It's strengthening and training. And so he gets up there and he has this Jeremy on his back, and he's going to get ready to get Jeremy on his back. And he says, one more thing, I'm putting a blindfold on you. What? What do you mean? He says, how far do you make it? Well, like, he's a star player. I might make it 30 yards. And the coach said, no, 50. Well, coach, how am I going to know when I'm getting close? He said, do you promise to give me your very best? Your very, very best. I promise. Do you promise? I promise. And they've gotten this little thing about, I promise, a strong promise that he would do his very best. So he got the blindfold on. He can't see where he's going. He gets him down on all fours, and he gets Jeremy on his back. And he says, okay, start. And he's coaching him along the way like a coach would. You can do it. Come on, give me your best. And he starts to falter. And he says, but coach, just be quiet. Give me your best. You can do it. Be strong. And this guy kept going and going and going. And his teammates, the camera would pan to them in the back, and all of a sudden they start like watching him. And their mouth started to drop. And they eventually kind of stood up and kind of started walking after this player, saying nothing, complete silence, not cheering him on or anything, just very quietly following him. And this player's going the death crawl. I can't, coach, I can't. And I mean, he's getting weak. Can you think of all that weight on your arms crawling in that position? And he says, just give me your best. You promised. Give me your best. And he kept going and kept going. And he ends at the other goalpost. Now, how long is the football field?
100 yards.
100 yards.
Wow.
He went beyond the 50. He went beyond the 50 with the blindfold on because he couldn't see the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is my interpretation. He couldn't see where he was. Do you think maybe if he saw, he might have kind of given up at the 50?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have to give God our very, 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 very best. Okay? And we can do that. And so I suggest that you go look at that one scene. It's called The Death Crawl in Facing the Giants. It's just a couple-minute scene. But you'll see exactly what I meant. And this guy, when he got to the end, he collapsed with his arms over the end zone. And he said, you're in the end zone. And the guy couldn't believe that he did it. And he said, yes, because you said you would give me your best. He says, I know you have the best in you. I know they have the best in you. You're one of my best players. You're going to inspire other people. Do you think we inspire other people if we give our best? I mean, if we're kind of like haphazard or kind of on the sidelines sometimes, when we get a little soft about things, we're not going to give people our best. And so this is extremely important, and that is just a silly scene from a sports movie, but it's extremely powerful. I don't know if I can go 5 feet. Maybe if I had a real little person on my back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I was in my prime, I might have done 20. But think about it. When you see it, you think what this man went through to give his best, and he didn't even know his own abilities. And we don't know our own abilities too. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
We don't know what's in us. We have to be able to just stand firm, be committed, and move forward. So I just had to share that with you, and that's what kind of got me going. But this is something that it's just like a blackboard a teacher had. Okay, I don't know if the camera's going to see this, but that doesn't matter. This is a teaching aid, which is kind of similar and goes along the same way. We often cut ourselves short. We often cut ourselves can't quite do that. I'm not living up to that standard. So what this teacher did, and oh, this teacher had sticky notes. And she put sticky notes up there. And then for every sticky note that was up there that was negative or not positive, she would put other sticky notes on top of it. Let me just read you a couple, and then we can think of this as, we know the scripture, we know these verses. Maybe if we had sticky notes about the giants, the trailers in our life, the obstacles we have, the temptations that we have, maybe we can cover it with another sticky note that shows how strong we really are, how the Lord can get us through, and kind of look at it in that mindset. And it says, change your words, change your mindset. Does that kind of make sense? What we hear, isn't that important? Doesn't the Bible always say you have to hear? You have to hear, listen with open ears. You have to really hear the word. So if we're really listening to the words, should we be able to apply it or search to apply it to things that are obstacles in our pathway right now? Like a couple of these. And the person saying, I just don't understand. I don't understand. The flip side is, what am I missing? So instead of saying, I don't understand, what am I missing? There's a difference. One here is like, I give up. I'll use some of the strategies that I've learned. What if you have something in your life you say, I made a mistake? Well, mistakes can help me improve. I have to move forward. Okay? Not that we're perfect, right? A lot of people will say, it's too hard. They wouldn't have done the death crawl. They wouldn't even offer to try it. This is too hard. But instead, this may take some time and some effort, and it goes right into the scene. A lot of people do okay, and they say, it's good enough. Is it? Is it really my best work? Are you really doing your best for Father? I mean, here's one that says, and this is kind of comparing people. I'll never be as smart as her, or I'll never be as smart as him. And you see this in school all the time. But it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to find out what makes that person, what they have, and maybe I can apply it to my life. Think of a Christian. The same thing, if you're the light, and they see that you have struggles in your life, but look who you are, look what you're doing. Wow, I'm going to try to apply that to my life as well. And then there's the old one that says, I can't make anything better. I just can't make this better. It's hopeless. But you could say, I can always improve. I'll just keep trying. You don't give up. Because through God, who strengthens us, all things are possible. I mean, that's a simple one you can say. And a lot of people say, I'm no good at this. Well, if you're no good at this, and you're recognizing it, that means you must be aware of what the right path is, or you would recognize you're good at it. So you're going to have to say, I'm on the right track. I have to be strong. I have to be able to put things into my life. So this is a simple teacher who did this, but almost all of them apply to what we do in our biblical walk. And it all comes back to, don't get soft. Don't get soft. You know, how gutsy are you? You're going to be able to stand firm. And a couple things here then. The sticky pads, you could do this in your own life if you want. This is my obstacle. What verse is going to be able to be placed over it? And some people can have their whole mirror covered with it, but maybe just one or two at a time so you can remember, you can take something and say, wow, I can do this. Look what God's already given to me. Look what's happened in my life. Look at the healings. Look at the things that, the timing that you thought at first was wrong, but the timing and things is God's will, and it makes it work out in the end. It may not be perfect when you're going through it, but if you have faith, the perfect thing will come about. And you'll be able to influence many more people. There's two things here I did have, and this one is, I can hand out later. It's the caution lights and relationships that I was talking about before, and I added to it a little bit because it goes to the same thing. And this is something that I added a little bit more to it. So if any of you need to look at it, it's a good thing to look at. Okay? So it takes a strong, godly person to be able to look at caution lights in relationships with other people, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be in work, mentor, whatever. And so this is caution lights in relationships is pretty awesome. So anyway, a recent article I read kind of went along with it. And the same thing as do you get soft is basically, do you spend time around toxic people or negative people? Do you put yourself in those positions? You know, the manipulative person, the controlling person, they want to be in charge of your life. They micromanage, they hold on tightly until they choke you. And I like the way that this one person is writing. They actually choke you. So if you're going to do your best and not be soft and be strong, sometimes you have to follow these rules. You have to follow these rules to be able to make sense of it. Sometimes you have to be aware of that desperately needy person. And you try to give and try to give and try to give. They're very needy at all times, but they're easily angered. And the dominators that do so to look for more, they look for more power. That's power to them, so they'll bring you down. Caution to those with negative patterns. So not to enable them, only God can help them, and sometimes we need to know when to step back, because if we're not going to get soft, sometimes we cannot be in certain situations, we can't be in certain places, we can't be around certain people. You got to caution the people who blame everybody, because they never take responsibility for themselves. So sometimes I can help someone and they start being a blamer. I can lead them to where they want to go, but I might have to step back. The gossipers are the same thing. They feed off exaggerations. They'll bring you down. They'll make you not as strong as you should. They make you not your best. They'll kind of let you get soft. Beware the arrogant and the narcissist. They are self-serving and always right, and they're always quick to judge. And that's narcissistic personality is a category of its own. You also have to be careful of the victim mentality. The victim mentality. That's that no one cares, woe is me personality. And a lot of times we as Christians try to rush to the rescue and help them out. Well, sometimes you're going to end up being victimized too. But you want to be strong. You don't want to get soft. So sometimes you have to be able to hold on to that too. Recognizing caution lights in yourself or in others is a very important thing to be able to keep strong, to keep from getting soft on your commitment to God, on to things that you don't want to compromise on. Sometimes you'll need to show tough love. Tough love's a little hard sometimes. You know, you're saying to someone, I care, but I will not let you hurt me. And I think far too many Christians sometimes who are very strong, that's what starts them down that little path. They need to be able to not let other people hurt them. Oh, yeah, you're just in bad straits. I understand the world is coming in against you. That's a terrible thing. And if you listen to it long enough, do you think maybe you might believe it yourself? So you can't let them bring you down. You might be able to offer a path, a word, a Bible study, but do not feel responsibility if they turn it down. If they're turning it down, Father might be saying, walk away. And set limits to protect yourself. It's never up to you to make someone different. You just have to be the light and let God and Holy Spirit do the work for you. So, we have to show our strength in God. And John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. And so I think I'm going to end with that. But the thing is do you get soft? Do you compromise? What happens if you do compromise? Have you ever gotten soft? Yeah. We all get soft sometimes. We need to take a stand for Father. We need to do it now, and we need to meet and make that promise to Him forever, evermore. You may cut the video.